all the ladies who can engineers, so that we can expose girls to these ladies who are successful and they're blooming in aviation, to show them that it's possible. Hopefully one day we'll be able to bring in an astronaut. So just also what African Leaders in Aviation is about. I'm Kotani and my co-founder Nyasha Manyika found this NGO to not only expose aviation, but to address the struggles that we faced, firstly as women and African, when we got into aviation. So we lacked information. There was very limited information. We lacked resources, sort of scholarships, which flight schools to go. So we started this NGO to bridge those gaps that we encountered. We didn't want any other girl and any other African student to suffer the struggles that we did. So this organization is for people like you, to show you what's out there, to show you, expose you what aviation is about, and show you that it's possible. Without any further ado, I'd like to introduce you to our very lovely MC for the day. She's a 19-year-old student pilot by the name of Kiliwe Skundla. She'll be bringing us through this program, and let's welcome her, everyone.
Every time I set my eyes on an airplane, every time a pilot pre-flies, there's a feeling. It's a feeling that will never leave. It's a feeling that no man who was not born to fly will ever experience. Thinking of this invisible power lifting you up from the ground and taking you to places you've never been. I want to be a pilot. Growing up in an underdeveloped country where society believes it's impossible to have such a wild dream has had an impact on me. The day I heard, Giliwe, you'll never become a pilot because you're black, you're a female, and you come from an underdeveloped country, was the day I abandoned my dream. Well, the wisest man that ever lived said, many are the plans in a man's heart, but the purpose of God prevails. My dream never left. It was always hidden inside of me, waiting to be released. As a little girl, I'd sit on my dad's lap while he was watching air crash investigation. For as far as I remember, I saw only 3 female pilots in the cockpit and became curious and asked, because that is what kids do. They ask and ask and ask and never stop asking. Dad said, anyone can do it. You can do it too. Never was I satisfied with what he said, so as I grew into a teenager, I did my research and discovered that females make up to 7% of all certified pilots, and too often these days, girls do not consider careers in aviation because it is said to be male-dominated. Representation matters, and if we hope to empower women, let us empower women to lead the way. This is where I hope to come in. This is the statistic I am determined to change. On my 16th birthday, I got the best gift anyone could ask for. My parents paid for my discovery flight at Westline Aviation. I tasted flight for the first time, and from that day onwards, I've walked the earth with my eyes turned skywards. And there, I've been longing to return. I will get there.
Thank you very much, Cody. Yes, my name is Kiliwe Skundla, and everything that Cody said and everything on the video is true. That is who I am. And I'm one of the co-hosts this morning. And also, I'm a part of the team of the African Leaders in Aviation. So before I get ahead of myself, let me introduce the rest of the team members. First, we have Lati, who is a certified commercial pilot, certified fixed wing instructor, and Erings mechanic and drone pilot. She got into aviation through South African Air Force to become a pilot and got an opportunity as an aircraft mechanic. Then number 2, we have Els, who defines himself as a young commercial pilot with vast experience in the aviation sector. I mean, he started flying when he was 17, so there's no doubt about that. Els has won multiple awards, including Commercial Pilot of the Year in 2019. He also won a scholarship of Keep Flying Scholarship in 2018. Els has also worked in South Africa, in Zimbabwe, and most recently works in Tanzania in one of the biggest operators in last African region. Then we have lastly Palesa Koza, who goes by the name Pilot Terry, and she is a grade 2 multi-engine instructor, safety officer, and most recently a drone pilot, and also pursuing a degree in agriculture. She is passionate about all things science and super eager to assist anyone who wants to know about aviation. So yes, that is our team, and I will also be sharing the program of today, how we're going to be doing everything. So yes, yes, from 9, which it has already like passed, but we'll just carry on after this. We will start with girls flying drones with our moderator as Balesa and our guest speakers as Cynthia Bongiwe Butelezi, Itumele Mokwena, and Mbalenhle Mphahle. Yes, Itumeleng Mokwena, who is the founder of the Drone Pilot Network and co-founder of the Operations Director and Permits A. So over to you, Balesa.
Good morning, all. I'm so glad you guys were able to join us here this morning. As Giliwa correctly stated, I will be the moderator for Girls Flying Drones. Flying drones for me has always been such a finicky industry where I always believed drones were related to bombing and anything that was related to war. It wasn't until a few years ago where I realized that actually there's a lot of positive opportunities that exist in flying drones. So I'm very much pleased to be hosting such a webinar with girls in aviation and to discover how many females actually exist in the drone industry, including myself. First up, we have Cynthia Butelezi. Cynthia Butelezi is a female pilot who was raised by parents, as she says, who weren't necessarily working. And so I want to discuss with her how she managed to get about being in a male-dominated industry where it's extremely expensive and how she managed to actually get to where she is right now. Cynthia, good morning.
Good morning, everyone.
How are you?
I'm good, and you?
I'm very well, thank you, Cynthia. Cynthia, I read your correction, not drone. I read your bio just a few days ago, and I was overwhelmed, or rather, in awe by the fact that your background is typical of most South Africans, where we come from underprivileged environments where finances aren't the greatest, but we're always managing to get to the top, exactly like yourself. Tell me, how did you manage to get through funding, through your instructor's rating, through your commercial pilot's license, and now your drone license?
So that is actually the most interesting part about my flying career, because during that time I was doing my LLB degree at Wits, and one of my sisters was coming back from work, and she saw this guy with a newspaper that had an advert from a company called Vugani. They were advertising for sponsorships.
Yes.
And it was the sponsorships from the Department of Higher Education and Training. So when she got off the taxi, she got me that newspaper and came home and was like, hey, here's an opportunity, apply. So I applied on the last day of the opening for that sponsorship. And then the following day they called and we started our psychometric test and everything in between. So I can say it was by sheer luck, because I didn't really go looking out for sponsorship. But being a pilot is something that I've always loved. It's something that I've always wanted to do. So that is how I got my funding, through a newspaper, and I started flying in 2013.
Oh, wow. So I hear you saying you were studying your degree in LLB. Did you manage to finish that, or did you just break out and go into aviation completely?
I broke out and went to aviation completely, but I am considering continuing with the LLB degree so I can get into aviation law and see
Nice,
what's
lovely.
happening in that regulation side.
That is fantastic. Tell me something. How have you managed to work your way through leaving your degree and now going into something that you say you've always wanted to do? However, you weren't necessarily, like you said, it was sheer luck. So you weren't necessarily pursuing it immediately at the time that you left high school. How have you
Yes.
managed to sort of work your way around it based on the fact that you were at a point where you were looking to do something else, realizing that maybe financing is not going to be available?
Yes. So for me, the biggest thing is my parents were very supportive. So as soon as we saw that opportunity and they called me to come for the interviews and all that for the sponsorship, I told my parents that I am going to drop out because they knew as well that it's something that I wanted to do. So they supported me through all that. So I dropped out from varsity and pursued flying. So throughout all the challenges that we have when we go to flight school and all that, sometimes our parents they start to lose a little bit of hope and be like, hey, you've been
Yes,
studying, you're not getting a job,
yes,
don't you think it's better to go back to varsity and continue? And I was like, I've already decided to change, so let me stick with this and finish. Then after that,
yeah,
I can see what I can do for myself. So having that
definitely.
support as well was the biggest thing for me, because my parents constantly supported everything that we did in terms of growth in education for our careers. So that was the biggest shift for me, that support, not having my parents complain that, yeah, we've already got a bursary for that, now you want to drop out and start something new. So that also made me focus more and believe to say, you know what, I want to achieve this so that I can continue doing other things outside of the number one passion that I've always wanted to do.
Most definitely. Just two more questions from my side. The first being, do you think you would have been able to pursue your dreams and even manage to get into becoming a drone pilot were it not for your parents' support?
To be honest, I don't think so, because there's so many times when you're at flight school and you just want to give up because of a lot of things that we encounter and face, you know, some of them being because you're a female, you start noticing
Yes.
subtle differences in how they treat you. Because you're Black, you notice other differences on how they treat you. So at some point you just want to give up, but knowing that there are people who are hoping that you finish, there are people who are supporting and encouraging you. So it makes you also want to continue and be like, you know, I want this thing, no matter how difficult it is, I will sit here and continue because I can see the end goal where I want to be. You can visualize it. So now it's a matter of pushing yourself through each and every challenge to try and get to that end goal. It's all about passion. If
Absolutely.
you love it, you'll definitely pursue it no matter what. You won't give up.
Definitely, definitely. I love the fact that you mentioned passion. I've always been somebody who strongly believes that to get through aviation and all the challenges that we encounter as females within the industry, you must be passionate beyond even your own reasonable understanding.
Very
So you
passionate.
mentioned challenges that you experienced during your training. Can you give me a list, maybe about 5 of the challenges that were the biggest highlight for you?
Okay, so throughout my pilot training, like I stated, I started in 2013. Because the school that we're in, it was mostly Black people and the group that we were sponsored with. So there weren't really any differences in terms of how they treated you. But when the school that we had closed down and we had to shift to a different school that's bigger and has different races, that's when you notice you can't even complain, because if you complain, you're being ungrateful. Someone is paying for you. So you have to take whatever treatment that they give you, because you don't have any leg to stand on. They should have given that opportunity to someone else if you will complain. So little things like the food that they prepare and give you, or the
Wow.
conditions of flights that you get booked in and other people don't get booked in. You know it's raining, but you're still expected to go and do pre-flight or whatever,
Yeah,
and then the flights
yeah,
end
I
up being
remember
cancelled,
those.
you know?
I remember those, Cynthia, where it's 6 in the morning and it's pouring and you're
Yes,
still expected to
yes,
pre-flight and nobody
yes,
else is awake.
yes. So you start noticing those differences to say, hey, why is it always us Black people listen to get this kind of conditions and other people don't?
Yes.
Or you'll go for a
Yes.
check flight with someone from the same instructor, you make the same mistakes because you're taught by the same person, but they'll pass because of whatever reason, you'll fail because of whatever reason. But when you look deeper into it, it starts showing a bit of racialness to it, that,
Yes. Yes.
it's a little bit of a preference because they're white or Indian or whatever, and the Black person will most likely be the one to get the fail.
Yeah. No, absolutely, Cynthia. Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing. Oh, yes, you mentioned something. This is the last question. Apologies from me.
Yes.
You mentioned psychometrics. Can you give us an idea what psychometrics are all about, and basically what do they ask, the type of questions they potentially ask during psychometric exams?
Yeah, so psychometric exams are pretty much what industrial psychologists do, tests to check your mental state, to check your knowledge behind certain subjects. So the one that we did, it had math, English, and a bit of technical where they show you boxes and then you have to figure out the different angle of how it would look. So they're testing your brain, how it works. So and also with your selections on those tests, they can also pick up and see if you have the qualities, the traits for that certain career that are needed. So you'll write those tests. It depends on that company or that scholarship and what they want to test, but most of them, they have your general knowledge questions, they have a bit of maths, they have a bit of English, and the technical drawing side, if I can call it that, where you have to look at the shapes and try and figure out a different angle of how it would look from the presented options. From there, they can deduce if you have the qualities to fall within that career and the capabilities to actually study and make it through. So that's how they select people who they think they can provide the scholarships to from those results of those psychometric tests.
Absolutely. Awesome stuff, Cynthia. I'm so glad you were able to talk to us this morning. Thank you for your informative session. And I'm so glad you touched on the race thing, because I think a lot of us today, a lot of the panelists and some of the moderators have experienced that thing where, you're walking into an environment and you're a Black girl. You've never necessarily experienced any sense of racism, but you get into aviation industry and suddenly it's everywhere. Suddenly you're
It's all up in
realizing,
your
you know what?
face. Yeah.
Exactly. Suddenly you're realizing, I wasn't aware of the fact that the color of my skin or the fact that I was female is so intimidating to everyone else. And I'm so glad you're able to touch on that so that, as we continue with our listeners today, they might get an understanding of some of the challenges that they might encounter. And we're hoping as African leaders in aviation to sort of shed light on that and sort of provide ways in which we can teach each other how to deal with such situations without losing ourselves, without losing our stance, without losing our beliefs and our self-worth. Thank you so much, Cynthia, for that. I hope you have a pleasant day and I hope you enjoy the rest of the webinar.
Thank you very much for the invitation. I mean, the issue of race and sexism is very, very big, to such a point that there was a time when I was an instructor, I had a student, but at some point he refused to fly because, you're a female and they don't want to listen to you, or they're older than you. As soon as they find out your age, they start not wanting to listen to you, even though you're an instructor. So there's a lot of other issues that happen that people aren't fully aware, and some people aren't really comfortable talking about, because it's a very sensitive issue. But the more we talk about it, the more it might get addressed easier or quicker. So thank you very much for the invitation. I'll definitely be tuning in and enjoying the most informative session that we've had in a while. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, hopefully, remember this is about girls in aviation. However, I'd love to make sure that there's males who are part of us as well. My next speaker is going to be Itumeleng Mokoena, if I'm not mistaken about her surname. She's going to be giving us a presentation, a short video about her journey through aviation. Itumeleng, you're next. sorry,
Hi,
just to give a
Palisa.
quick,
Thank you so much
hi,
for
Dumile.
the invitation.
You're most welcome. You can go ahead, give us a quick brief about yourself, and then you can give us your presentation.
Okay, well, my name is Itumele Mukwena. I'm the co-founder of Parthenius Air. Parthenius Air is basically a licensed drone operations provider in South Africa. I know a lot of people don't know that you actually need to have a license if you want to operate commercially within the drone space. Our company is actually one of the 2 Black-owned companies that are currently registered to do operations in South Africa. I'm also the founder of Drone Pilot Network, which is basically a network that has grown tremendously within a short space of time. And it just started off as an idea to share information about the industry. And yeah, that's just a bit. I'm also a co-author of Drone Professional 2. Drone Professional 2 is an international best-selling drone resource guide where we collaborated with a lot of other key industry specialists within the drone industry from across the world, just to try and share some information about the drone industry.
That is incredible, Itumile. You know, I've seen so many posts about you, and you come across as this humble, shy human being. You're a girl, you're carrying heat. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. Wow, I had no idea you were carrying so much heat, and yet you're so humble and very calm and down to earth about all of your achievements. Please, man, you need to put it out there. Let us know what you're carrying. Anyway, you had said you have a short video to share with us. You can go ahead and show the video, and then we'll have a short discussion shortly thereafter.
My name is Itumele Mukwena, and I am a licensed drone professional and maintenance technician. What that basically means is that I am certified by the South African Civil Aviation Authority to carry out commercial drone-related activities. My passion for aviation started when I was still in high school. I remember I had so vehemently desired to actually obtain a manned aviation license after high school. However, I was unable to pursue that career due to the funds at the time. And then in the year 2017, I was fortunate enough to actually get a bursary to pursue the drone pilot license training. And I've never looked back ever since. It just exposed me into this new world of drone technology and drone data that literally hoping to inspire other young people as well to get into the space. In order to be qualified as a professional drone pilot in South Africa, there's various trainings that you need to go through. The initial being your initial remote pilot license training, which is your RPL. And for that, you basically go to training at an approved training organization. The training is comprised of 2 sections, where the first part will be the theory part, and then there's going to be a practical part. And from there, you will then do an exam with a designated flight examiner or designated radio examiner. Some of the challenges that I faced during my training, I remember radio. In South Africa, one of the prerequisites to you getting your RPL is that you need to do a basic radio license. And at the time, we needed to do Morse code as well. And I had to do Morse code for like 3 times before I actually passed it. And I managed to get through. And the other challenge that I faced was public transport. So with the drone schools here in South Africa, most of the areas where they do the practical trainings are quite isolated because they need to be away from certain airspaces, away from certain airports and such things. So the training school that I specifically did my training at was about 20 kilometers away from the last point where the taxi would drop. So from there, I literally had to walk like 20 kilometers before reaching the area where I was going to do my training. And once I was done with my training again, another like 20 kilometers. And yeah, those are difficult times, but I appreciate them a lot right now because I know what it meant for me to get this license. And yeah, I guess I just tried to embrace every challenge. I currently work as the flight operations manager for Pathenius Air, which is one of the few 100% Black-owned licensed drone operators in South Africa. I love what I do because I think I'm amazing at it. But on the real, the drone space is such an incredible career to be in. There's a lot of developments that are constantly happening on the daily, and you never get to a point where you literally know everything there is to know. And I think I enjoy the fact that I'm constantly learning, and I'm also learning from other people as well. So that's the biggest thing that I think I love about my job. I also love the fact that there's so much data that you actually get from the drone. I know a lot of people think it's just about taking images and videos, but when you are doing actual data processing and data analyzing, just seeing the data get together and producing your orthomosics, producing your 3D models, I think it's just so amazing the information that you are able to obtain from the drone. And I think that's just one part that is really, really amazing about my job. My plans for the future, I plan on becoming a DFE, and hopefully I can say to someone, hey, here's your license. I think it's just really amazing to give someone the power to say, you are now able to go and find a job or pursue a career in this industry now that you're a fully licensed professional. So one of the major key things that I'm hoping to do is that I get that opportunity to be able to give that opportunity to other people as well, and hopefully open my own training school because I really enjoy teaching other people. My advice for anyone willing to get into the space is it's not a very fancy job. However, it's worth every moment. I know people like to think, you know, we are flying all of these expensive machines. The machines are nice, but when it gets down to the T and you need to be out and doing the job, it gets dirty. Cool. Thank you very much.
Wow. Wow, 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 wow. I cannot even begin to put together the words to justify, not even justify, to explain the magnitude of what you do and the magnitude of what you're actually involved in. I myself am a fixed wing instructor, and I recently got my drone license. But, you know, as you talking about all the things that are involved in drone piloting. I'm in awe. You know, you get involved into a certain industry and you don't realize how many nitty gritties actually exist. And you have literally unpacked a whole new universe for me. Thank you so much for that presentation, Itumeleng. I'm completely awestricken. I literally lost all my questions that I wanted to ask you after that presentation. Do you have anything else to share from your side? Just a quick brief, anything you'd like to add on?
No, not really. I mean, I think for me, part of why I also wanted to be part of this panel today is because I know there's been a lot of like bursaries and things that are going out for people to get into the drone industry. But there's a perception that because there's all these opportunities out there, the market is like ripe, and there's a misconception that people think that as soon as I get my drone license and I'm going to get a job. But in reality, that's not the case. That's not the case. Yes. You really need to be committed. You need to be prepared for a lot of, especially when you're fresh starting out. I mean, the regulations for the drone industry were promulgated in like 2015. So there's a lot of influx that's happening now in terms of the pilots that are coming to the drone aviation side. But you need to consider that there's already been people who have been in the industry for like 6-7 years. So you are coming into a new market yet, but it's not like there's hundreds of companies that are willing to take on new pilots. And also, in as much as, you know, in manned aviation, you need to go through training and everything. It's the same with the drone side as well, because there's different types of operations in the drones. You get security, you get survey and mapping in training school as well. All the things they teach you in training school are not applicable in operations. So you literally starting from the ground down. I mean, they don't even teach you how to actually operate a camera as part of the syllabus, which I think is something that actually needs to be changed. But yeah.
Thank you so much, Itumeleng. Awesome stuff, guys. If you have any further questions, particularly about the drone industry, I mean, Itumeleng has gone and opened up an environment where we're able to ask questions that we didn't know we might have had initially. I, for one, was having difficulty actually coming up with questions related to drone flying because, like I'm saying, I just got my license and I'm not really vexed or rather well-versed with the drone industry. Ask me about a fixed wing and, you know, I got everything on the lowdown. So thank you so much for sharing all the information that you have. You literally, like I said, opened up a new world and a new industry and a new environment. And thank you for touching on that note, that very important point, that the job market isn't necessarily right. It's a little bit tight. And obviously, if there's people who've been in the industry for about 6 to 7 years, people are now going to start looking for people who've got some level of experience. So guys, please pay attention to that when you get your license. Start learning more about it, expose yourself more to the things that need to be understood about the industry. I think generally the assumption is always to say, yeah, now I've got my license. Like you mentioned, even in the fixed wing industry, assumption is always to say, yes, I just got my license. Now what am I going to do? And I think it's something we need to learn as Africans in general. Maybe it's a South African thing, I'm not sure, where, you know, we assume that having a license or having that degree means doors are going to open up, when in reality we need to dig deeper and understand the industries that we're involved in and make them a niche, basically, like you've done. You've literally made it your niche, and you're literally excelling in everything drone related. And I'm so proud of you. Thank you so much, Itumeleng, for sharing.
Thank you so much, Palis. I really appreciate it. And I think I also just want to add, because you know, people get fascinated by the flying, but it's like in drones, flying is really 10% of the work. You know,
precisely. You're accurate. You're so accurate. Even in the fixed wing, it's the exact same principle.
Yeah, you know, there's all the pre-planning that you need to do, and especially with drones, you know, you do your pre-planning and then you go and fly, and then comes the data processing and data analysis.
Yes.
So even the softwares that you use, there's a wide variety of softwares that you are able to use. So there's so many things to actually explore within the industry that, you know, I think people just get fixated on the flying, but they don't realize that the software is really where everything comes into place. Because outside of like security and, you know, media industry, most of the data that you get from the drone is what is important. It's the information that your surveyors, your engineers, different kinds of people. It's because we live in a data world, and it's literally the data that you'll be able to get from the drone that makes all the difference, and how you're able to actually interpret and use all the other softwares related to it.
Absolutely. Actually, now that you've just mentioned, do you think that you need to be some sort of IT specialist to understand the drone industry? Like you're saying, a lot of people think it's just about the flying, when in reality, it seems to be more a very technological environment that requires an understanding to some degree of software and how computers basically work. Because I mean, a drone sounds like a miniature computer that can be put into the sky. What do you think? Do you think you require some understanding of IT?
I think it helps. It's not necessarily a requirement, but it would help you in the industry as well. And yeah, the nice thing is, because there's so many different softwares, there's platforms, and you get tutorials where you're able to teach yourself. Honestly, the best way you'll be able to learn is on the job, when you're actually seeing when you're constantly flying and constantly processing. So in as much as you can get a bit of an idea with like your trials and everything like that, yeah, I wouldn't say it's a requirement, but it would be advantageous. I still think, we have a long way in terms of the manufacturing industry. And also, I know there's a few guys who are trying to come up with South African-based softwares, because the software market is quite competitive internationally as well. So if you have some sort of IT background, it's very useful. And I see there's actually a question in the comments. Someone is asking, can drones be useful like satellites? And yes, definitely. We actually also make use of those, but that's IP I'm not supposed to share. I just can't go into much there, but you can actually integrate the solution.
Awesome stuff. Yes. There's another question, Itumeleng. You had mentioned earlier about scholarships that are out, particularly for drone training. Can you mention just a few of those scholarships so our viewers and listeners could actually get an idea where they could apply?
So it's actually more company based, if I can put it that way. So some of the companies that have been issuing out bursaries are it's a training school called ProWings. There's also, I think they work together with a company called UDS. There's also a program being run by, I think it's Mzansi Aviation, or I can't remember.
Yes, I think it's called Mzansi Aviation.
It's not aviation, I'm forgetting the name, but it's Mzansi something. Our company as well, Pathenius Air, we're going to be providing a few bursaries probably within the next 2 or 3 months, so people can go on our LinkedIn page and follow us. And yeah, but just keep I would suggest some drone companies, and also training school, especially Cranefield. I know whenever there's opportunities out, they generally send out emails and post on like their social pages regarding opportunities that are out.
Awesome stuff. So I think the one you're trying to remember is Mzansi Aerospace.
Yes.
Not Mzansi Aviation. Yes. Awesome stuff. Thank you so much, Itumeleng. Apparently UDS has a cadet pilot program as well. So guys, the key here is to basically stay in tune to African leaders in aviation. We seem to have a lot of people who have an understanding or are exposed to the types of bursaries that actually exist out there. And if ever there's an opportunity, we'll try and make sure that people are exposed and we give all that information out as and when it becomes available. Thank you so much again, Itumeleng, for your time. I really appreciate it. Thank you for blowing my mind, literally. You left me awestruck. I feel like a groupie. I hope you enjoy.
Thank you so much.
I hope you enjoy the rest of the event, and please stay in touch with us. Guys, if you have any further questions for Itumeleng or any of our panelists, don't hesitate to comment on the chats as well as on our Facebook page. Ask any questions. At the end of this section regarding girls flying drones, we'll be answering some of your questions in the Q&A section. So Itumeleng, please do stay tuned. There might be other questions that come up in a bit.
All right, cool.
Thank you. Up next, we have Mbali Mfage. I know her as Mbali Mpage, as Mfage. We call her Mbali Mfage. Mbali and I actually go quite a long way. Mbali and I met in 2015, I think. And as life would have it, aviation does its own thing, and you end up finding yourself flying drones. Mbali Mfage, as I just mentioned, her surname is actually Mpage, is a biomedical technologist, a commercial pilot, a grade 3 flight instructor, as well as a drone pilot. Mfage, talk to me about your journey in aviation just briefly and how you actually ended up flying drones.
Well, my journey in aviation, it literally started, so as you know, I have was raised by a single mom. She is a nurse, so there was a point in time where a lot of nurses were actually immigrating to like Saudi, the UK, and things like that. And we went on what she called like a holiday, an extended holiday, but it was basically she wanted to see how well I would adapt to living abroad. But in getting overseas, it was like literally the first time I ever flew, and it was like, this is it. Like from that point on, it was like there's nothing else I can do. But you know, the journey itself was like Cynthia had mentioned as well, finances, because for the most part, my mom ended up paying a lot of my training until I was able to get a sponsor. But then even in getting sponsorship, it was like literally a fluke, because I was literally told that your address or where you're from or how you sound don't give off the previously disadvantaged vibe enough for us. So that was like a very big stumbling block for me personally, was the finances. But then, you know, as you go on and go through, it was hard. I don't know, it was like one of those things where I don't want to say life was easy, but I had never had to struggle to make it as much as I've had to in aviation. So it was like a growing. I think it actually helps you grow as a person, the challenges you need to overcome. And you like, I thought I was like persistent, or I had perseverance, but I didn't know how much, or
and how far you can be pushed.
Yeah.
I think aviation is one of those where you literally discover how strong you are. There's this quote that I've come across. It says, you don't know how strong you are until you have to do it. And I think aviation is one of those industries, particularly for female, particularly for us Black girls, because growing up, you're just a Black girl. There's nothing special about you. There's nothing interesting. And as Cynthia mentioned, there's those bits and pieces of racial discrimination that you get exposed to. And, you know, you have to work your way through it and figure out, how do I get through to the end? So tell me, what made you decide to become a drone pilot after having been in the fixed wing industry? How did you choose drone flying?
So what happened was, like, in the fixed wing industry itself, there was like lots of challenges and stumbling blocks. And then as soon as like you made it, there's always, you know, this and the next. So I was at a place where, like, you know, Cynthia said, where how you get treated and stuff. And I was literally told, like, you must find your place in the world, because we don't think this might necessarily be for you. So it was like, I felt like I had, you know, done a lot to get as far as I am. So if it was a matter of branching out, what could I do that is still aviation related? So not like changing the industry as a whole, but what could you do? And I don't know, from once you enter, I think, the drone industry, it's like you open your eyes. As much as you think, you know, like how we saw just now with the doing, there's always more to learn. And I feel like with all the fourth industrial revolution, things like that taking over, it's the one industry where I'm like, as much as I think I know, or like, I've made it, there's always like the next day where you're like, oh, okay, I'm still clueless, I guess. We're still like constantly learning. So I found that to be the most interesting. So that's why I have stuck it out for as long as I have.
All right. So you just mentioned something about challenges and how you sort of ended up moving away from fixed wing industry because of the challenges. Do you think if drone flying didn't actually exist, you would have continued to persevere as a fixed wing pilot?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's like one of those where you can't work as hard as you have, or like endure as much as you have, and then just be like, you know what, that's it, I'm done. Also because I don't know, like you had said, passion. So without the passion, then I probably, like, the first challenge I would have been like, you know what, it's too much stress, I'm out. But yeah, the perseverance and sticking it through. Not that I've moved entirely away from the man side. It's just like I literally thought it would be maybe like take a year or so just to breathe, take a break from the fixed wing. But like every time I'm like, okay, cool. I've learned all I can when it comes to the drone sector. There's always something else, and you're like, but I can't leave. I need to figure this out and figure that out.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I totally feel it. You have a diploma, I think it is, in biomedical technology. What on earth is that? And do you think we can combine biomedical technology with drone flying at some point?
So biomedical technology is basically working in your medical lab. So, you know, like COVID is a big thing now. Anytime you get bloods or samples taken from you as a patient, they send it to the lab to get processed and analyzed, and then your doctor finds out what's wrong with you. So the biomedical technologist is who runs the test, be it like your COVID test, your blood test, cancers, diagnosing the different types of cancers and things like that. So anything they take from the patient, that goes to the lab. So that is what the biomedical technologists do. In terms of incorporating it with drones, I think it is possible. I know the blood bank, they're trying to get like drones to deliver like the bloods and things like that, but you know, regulations. So there always has to be that one that breaks through the barrier, and then like the incorporation between health and drones as well, because a lot of the other industries, they've managed to incorporate drones so well that I think with health, it's a bit more trickier to do that.
No, absolutely. I had one more question for you, or I think it was one more. I think I just lost my chain of thought. I think I just lost my chain of thought. What are you currently doing now? So are you working as a drone pilot? Do you mind sharing what you do on a day-to-day as a drone pilot?
So my main focus, being as I had the grade 3 instructor's rating, is that I've mainly stuck it out in training. Not like stuck it out, that sounds so bad, but like I've stayed or focused a lot more on training. So right now I am working as a chief flight instructor. We've got a new flight school that's just opened up. It's called the Zoo Drone Academy. So I'm the head of training there. We are starting out now in October. So everything went well from like a CIA approval point of view.
Lovely.
So
that's fantastic.
So we are going to start the first round of courses now in October.
So what does it entail to be a head of training of a drone flight school?
It's basically the CFI, but then from a regulation point of view, because if you read up on what a CFI is, it's a grade 2 flight instructor with X amount of hours and things like that. So they feel that because of the regulation definition of a CFI, you can't have that within the drone sector. So then they had to change the title to head of training. But it's essentially the same thing.
All right. Just for our audience that's listening in, a CFI is a chief flight instructor. So if you look at the ICAO definition, which is the International Civil Aviation Organization, it just basically tells you that this is someone who is able to sort of deal with the day-to-day functions of a flight school. This could be a fixed wing or a drone flying school, even a helicopter. So
Right.
basically, Umbali
Yes.
Mphache, one of our panelists, is a chief flight instructor. Can you just mention the name of the school again? I didn't quite get that.
It's the Ntu Drone Academy.
Stand 2.
Ntu.
Ntu, NTSU.
Yeah.
Okay, so
NTSU,
Ntu
yes.
drone. Okay, no, thank you very much for that. The Ntu Drone Flying Academy. Awesome stuff. Thank you so much, Mbali, for giving us your time this morning. We started a little bit later, but now we've gone a little bit over time from the time we were supposed to finish. So we had 45 minutes to talk to our amazing drone pilots. I'd like to take a short break, and during the break, it's going to be a 15-minute break. I'd like for you guys to enjoy a short video that's going to be playing shortly. Guys, please don't forget, if you have any questions that you want to ask the ladies about anything, don't hesitate to share it on our chat box as well as on our Facebook page. Let's take a short break. You can get something to drink, stretch your legs, and we'll be back with airline pilots. Thank you so much, ladies.
Bye.
X-ray Piper Warrior, coming up over at Santon CBD, 6,500 feet. Routing Joburg CBD, next stop is Sierra X-ray. And there's the Mike 1, all the way to Pretoria. Mike 1, M1. Oh, and then there's Midrand Mall of Africa, that tall tower over there. Are you sure you don't want to give the flying controls a shot?
No.
Are you sure?
I'm okay, thanks.
You're positive?
I'd rather not put us in danger.
You wouldn't be. I put myself in danger every time by taking students up. So most people have a tendency of wanting to constantly hold it back towards them like this. So you don't want to do that, you just want to hold it gently in one position.
I'm just going to hold it, I don't think I'm going to steer when you...
Not a problem, I have
control. Thank you so much for that.
You're very welcome.
When I was a child, I wanted to be a pilot.
Really? What happened? Why did you?
And then someone told me, you got to remember you have like 1,000 people's lives in your hand.
I know, right?
I was like, okay, never mind. Wow.
I promise you can take a video or a picture. Yeah, there's Gold Reef City.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, there's the...
X-ray runway 29, surface 1320 degrees 10 knots, clear to land.
Clear to land, runway 29 now. Clear to land, runway 29 now, Oscar Sierra X-ray.